Ooh, your love is fading. I can feel your love fading. Girl, it's fading away from me. 'Cause your touch has grown cold. As if someone else controls your very soul. I fool myself long as I can feel the presence of another man. It's there when you speak my name. It's just not the same. Ooh, baby, I'm losing you. It's in the air.
This is a 2015 Volkswagen Jetta S, and we have a problem. Timing belt has skipped a few teeth. Over time, sometimes these belts won't necessarily snap, but the teeth will start to shear off the actual belt, and at that point you'll lose timing, and unfortunately the valves have contacted the piston. In this scenario, we basically have to take the head off, cylinder head off, inspect all the valves, make sure everything is okay. If you have some bent valves, it's not a big deal. You can replace those valves. I'm gonna replace all the ones that are bent. Most likely they're intake valves that are bent. I'm gonna lap new valves onto the existing seats. If all is okay and the cylinder head is not damaged, that should be just fine. I think we can save this head. I think the valves that have impacted the pistons was just a minor impact. I don't think it broke anything. I won't know until I take the cylinder head off, of course. So that's next on the list. I have a lot of stuff to remove. Intake manifold, all the accessories, exhaust manifold, all that stuff, timing components, drain the coolant, you name it. Everything's got to come off to get the cylinder head. So we'll see how that goes. So there's a few things you have to do in order to get the manifold off. Take out the battery because it needs to be charged, but disconnect the battery for sure. A couple of auxiliary hoses you need to take out here. Coolant passages for the throttle body. You can just set those aside. There's a connector here on this side. Slide up the power steering reservoir and just kind of tilt it forward. You do need to disconnect the fuel line. It's a bit tricky to go from here because the whole rail is plastic, Volkswagen. So it's easier to disconnect right there from that connector. So this fuel line has a plastic, the little black plastic tab. You have to lift up and then you kind of push the whole assembly off. That's just a little tab here, like a locking tab. So that's easy. That'll come off with the whole intake manifold. Just make sure to mark everything where you take it off. You do need a triple square, which is one of these guys here, to take off the intake manifold. You need a few of these. If you're working on any Volkswagen Audi product, you're going to have to get a whole set of these triple squares on everything. So disconnect all the injectors, take out all the spark plug wires. There's a little clip here that disconnects all of the connectors and harness, this main harness here. So you want to disconnect that. There's a couple plugs back here. Basically, you just want to get this whole harness loose. So when you take out the main bolts for the intake manifold, it all comes out as one piece. You just want to slide the main harness through, and the whole assembly comes off. So. So to get off the intake manifold, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 triple squares up top. There's 2 triple squares down below, and 2 13mm nuts on the bottom here. So 2 13 nuts and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triple squares up top, which are these guys here. That's them. Then basically you slide the manifold towards you, and then you just kind of pull that forward because these hooks just slide in. There's no bolts back there. Up next, we're going to be taking off the valve cover, and then we're at TDC right now, top dead center on the piston side. And according to this is a mark here, top dead center. Be very gentle with these, just gently pry piece by piece. Be very, no major big pry bar, just a little small flathead, piece by piece, and then just wiggle it. It'll come out. So now we have to get out engine mounts, tensioner. We have to get all this out to get access to the timing belt. You need to get a jack stand and hoist the engine up because they're going to be relying on that because all this is coming out. Engine mount, tensioner, all that stuff is coming out. Dropping the coolant. I have to get the 4 bolts in the back there for the manifold. Get the belt off, and then I can start taking the cylinder head off. Now we have to remove this bracket here. Now we can get the belt out. So you can see the teeth are actually missing. See, the teeth are missing from the belt. So when the crankshaft spins, obviously nothing happens up there on the camshaft, so. You will need one of these. This is a special tool for the head bolts. Definitely need that. Exhaust manifold, 4 bolts, that's coming out. And then get the belt off, and then the head's coming off next. So you see impact here, impact here. Looks like impact here as well. Yeah, this one too. Biggest hit was here. That's for sure gonna need replacing. time.
Emotionally distraught people find a home in the Sunshine Hotel, and I found home inside me. Emotionally distraught people find a home in the Sunshine Hotel.
So a few items to clean the cylinder head that I would recommend. Get some cheap toothbrushes, something with a soft bristle. You don't want anything that's super abrasive. No wire wheels, nothing like that. Aluminum is a relatively soft metal, so you really don't want to be scraping, or you just want to be as gentle as possible. Get some plastic razor blades, that's a good idea too. Brake clean, also gum out. Be very careful when you're using any kind of abrasive wheel or pad on aluminum, because this is ultimately a mating surface for the head gasket, so you don't want to be too rough on the surface. With cast iron, you can be a bit more aggressive, but still, it's a mating surface for a head gasket, so you don't want to go too crazy. Again, some Scotch-Brite pads, some of these, some brake clean, some gum out. Make sure to block off any hole that you have here. This is an oil pressure line, and these are oil return lines. What's happening here? So this is the only way to get this deep carbon inside the aluminum is either a hot tank or a soda blast to just blast all this out, because this is not, don't use a razor, a metal razor on aluminum. But just to kind of show you, this is just staining. But again, you just get as much as you can out without damaging the aluminum. Transmission fluid and acetone mixed in a little container is what really helped get all this carbon off. Goo Gone and all that stuff is great, but this is just on a different level. So just get a soft scrubbing pad like this, a little bit of transmission fluid, a little bit of acetone. That's the winning combination. On to the next step, which is lapping some valves. cheap way of just making sure that all the valves are lapped and kept in their correct location. You want to make sure that each valve you lap stays with its corresponding hole. Exhaust, exhaust, intake, intake, cylinder number 1, 2, 3, 4. Just make sure everything stays together. You're gonna need a lapping tool. It's one of these guys. Basically, you put lapping compound around the valve seat and a little bit on the valve. And you're just gonna basically lap the valves until you'll hear a tone change. That's when it's been seated. Let's get started. I'm just gonna apply some assembly lube on the stem while it's getting lapped here. So.
She said he does love you, but well, this time I'll never look back down the road. Just this time I'll never look back down the road.
Them seals. Make sure you have a valve. Stem tool. Let's put that in.
She's like this heart of mine. Won't let go.
Down a bit.
And the heart she gave to me, it just turned out she can't. Seems like this heart of mine, it just don't know. But the pain I love can't bring. From the way that love may seem. But I'll try to make it understand.
Here's the head gasket. This is a multi-layered steel. Valves all the way down. I feel like this is a crucial step that a lot of people sometimes miss. This is from the manufacturer that provides the head gasket. So this is L-ring. This is from the head gasket manufacturer. They give you torque specs, torque pattern, the tool. Also, this is super important. So it's best not to torque the bolts dry. Actually use some engine oil on the threads and the seat of the head. So the bottom here, apply some lubrication, not on the washer, but these 2 points here. A lot of people miss this step, but it's very, very important. Don't forget that. Always get new bolts. Marking them, you can just check them off here. So 30 foot-pounds of torque, and then two 90-degree increments. So 30 foot-pounds, and then 90, and then 90 degrees. So technically 180, but you have to do this pattern. Number one has to be 30 foot-pounds, 2 30 foot-pounds, 3 30 foot-pounds, 4. Then you have to come back and do a 90 degree, and then come back again, 90, 90. You don't have to have a torque wrench that has degrees. You can just do a 90 and eyeball it. But of course, digital torque wrench makes it a lot easier. So. this is the tensioner. When you put the belt on, you want to tighten the tension inside that window. This is your tooth that lines up with this guy and this notch here. This guy here, the cam. Just make sure that your number one cylinder is at top dead center. Oops. So what I find is easier is you put the camshaft on first. You leave the tensioner loose. You loop it around here, go down, and you slowly, so basically camshaft, tensioner, crankshaft, then you kind of loosely just rest it on the water pump, and then everything just kind of slides in if your timing marks are correct. So I got my camshaft good. Now you see how that tab is resting in its hole. That is correct. It needs to be seated inside there. So now the belt is on, everything is good, everything is timed. Now this tool, to tension it until that gauge goes where it needs to, then I tighten it down. Oh. So that's the little tab right there. I recommend setting up a mirror right there. I can see it. I can see the little timing mark, the little gauge on the tensioner. You can't see it here from this angle, but as I'm tightening it, I can see it from this angle. So that's what I'm gonna do. Balancer's on, all the shielding. There's two shields that go in there first, then the balancer, and then this bracket here. This is a bit of a pain in the butt. You have to kind of snake it through this side here. You go around. There's an access hole here for the bolt. When everything's back together, be sure to turn the engine multiple times to make sure there's no contact. If you feel any resistance, any crunching, stop immediately. Something's not right. So again, when the belt's on, everything is tensioned. Turn the crankshaft a few times to see if everything lines up. Everything should move smoothly, and you're ready to move on to the next steps. Everything's going back together. Got the valve cover on, new valve cover gasket, coolant system set, the intake manifold on first, and then snake the harness through, and we should be few moments away from starting this thing up. Look at those fresh valves. So snake the harness through, connect your cam sensor, snake this underneath. Got a couple of, got a purge valve back here. There's a map sensor back there. Want to make sure everything is routed correctly. We are making good progress. All right, we got everything back together. It's time to fire this thing up. Thank you again for watching Stars Autosport. Please, if you have any questions, comment below. This video was a bit longer than usual. Do you prefer longer videos that are over 30 minutes? There's a lot of video to edit, so it does take longer. But let me know, like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.